We are live. Seth Tuggle, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking me.
Yeah.
When you reached out, I was like, when you sent me the picture, I'm like, holy smokes. I'm like, he's asking me to come on this thing.
Heck yeah, dude. So for the listeners and for the people watching this, Seth is a customer of ours. He went solar with us last year.
Yep.
2023 or 4?
We got turned on, it would have been like less year ago, roughly.
Yeah, about a year ago. And how's the solar working out for you?
Perfect.
Yeah.
As advertised.
Yeah. Good.
You just get the $18 and that's it.
And that's it. Your bill's reduced from probably $200 to $18 and bam. So one of the reasons I want to have you on, Seth, is just you've become like a customer friend of mine. I like texting with you and talking to you, and it seems like you're in the mode of, you're obviously a leader, and just for the people listening, you're in the military.
Yep.
Explain your position and how long you've been in and kind of the background.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just hit 19 years, which is absolutely insane.
Thank you for your service.
I could retire in 2 years, which is also insane to think. I probably won't, but I could. So I'm full-time out at the 182nd. I'm the AFE Superintendent. So people are like, what does that mean? So it's aircrew flight equipment. In a nutshell, like what we do. We provide aircrew equipment that on their worst day, that equipment operates. And that could be from life preservers to a helmet and a mask to night vision goggles to a survival vest to on those airplanes, there are life rafts. We work on like anything that is emergency equipment. That's what we do. I manage a team full-time of 5. And then on the weekend or for my traditionals, I've got about 14 total, including my full-time staff.
So the guys outside of your 5 directly are part-timers?
Yep.
They're National Guard, or is it?
Yeah, it's Air National Guard.
Air National Guard.
Yep.
And so basically, in a nutshell, you support the air side of your, correct me with the speech here, is
you're good.
Platoon, or is it your?
No, so, and when we were texting back and forth, I kind of got giggles out of that because that's like Army lingo.
Yeah.
But so we have a flying squadron out there, the 169th Airlift Squadron. So we directly support them flying and the tails that are assigned to us out at the wing.
Yeah.
So.
Were you always interested in airplanes growing up as a kid? Yeah, like an airplane spoon when you were feeding?
Not really. I'll be really honest. So as like school went, and it's crazy because my kids, and we'll probably get into that too. It's crazy because school was not my thing. So as I was going through high school, my mom's like, hey, like you got college, work, military, like you got to do something. So I started thinking about it. I'm like, military sounds cool. Give me something to do. I don't want to go to college.
You were how old at this point?
15, 16 maybe. So I started looking into it. Matter of fact, this is a crazy story. Took my ASVAB with the Marines.
ASVAB.
So you have to take an entrance exam to get into the military, and that's what that is. I took that with the Marines, actually out at the unit that I work at now, which is also insane because I didn't even know it was there. I didn't even know what it was. I actually was supposed to meet with a Navy recruiter and ended up in an Air Force recruiter's office, and I joined the Air Force. So no infatuation with the military, like family too. There's no one in my family with the exception of an uncle of mine that served in the military. It was just, I need something to do. And I wanted to get out of the area too.
So your training was in a different state? Yeah.
So I left Illinois, went to Texas. From Texas, I actually stayed in Texas for my tech school. And my first duty station was out in North Carolina at Seymour Johnson's, a fighter unit, F-15 unit. So yeah, it took me out there we were out there for like 4 years.
Is that nerve-wracking so you joined the military at what age?
18.
18.
Yep.
Is that nerve-wracking at 18 years old to be shipped out to a different state and just be kind of thrown in the whirlwind of military talk? And
yeah, I mean, yeah, a little bit. You're nervous. But
I heard that you can grow a very strong full head of hair, but you choose to go bald. Is that true?
The military is probably why I'm like this a little bit in some sense, or my kids.
Right.
But yeah, so it was kind of like I wanted to get out of Illinois because I'd been here most of my life.
You grew up in Morton?
I didn't. I grew up in Decatur predominantly, and then moved up to the Clinton area. My parents divorced. My mom moved up to a small town outside of Clinton, but that's where I went I was actually talking to a niece of mine. I went to 4 different schools through like K through high school.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Did you find that you learned how to make friends quickly since you transitioned schools so quick, or were you kind of
Yeah, and then like adapting too.
adapting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving in the military wasn't as big of a deal because, yeah. And so thank you for your service.
Yeah.
19 years is a long time.
Yeah.
You're how old now?
37.
So it's half your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you plan to retire in the next 2 years? Or are you thinking about?
It depends, right? So when you get up to the point that I'm at, the positions narrow. There's only so many. So I'm an E8 in order.
And for the people listening, E8 means?
All right. So on the enlisted side, we're in the military. You actually have 3, but in the Air Force, well, we're about to have 3 too with warrant officers, but you have enlisted and officers. Some on the enlisted side, there's 9 categories. E1 is brand new. E9 would be a chief.
Okay.
So I'm an E8. So almost at the top. So as you progress up, those positions there's less of them. My wife and I, and we'll probably get into it, have sacrificed a lot over those 19 years. So if the opportunity is there, because you're talking about the rest of our life.
Yeah.
And retirement and all that stuff, what does that mean? Would it be worth it to stay? Absolutely, if I could make it to that E9 mark. If I don't see that on the horizon, I'm still young. I'll be 40, and I can jump out and do something different.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at in my leadership, and they know all this too.
Sure.
So we've had conversations about it. So
we're friends on Facebook, and I know you following you for the past year or so, and it seems like you're posting a lot about leadership and about mentality and about. Is that a new concept or a new kind of push for you, or is this something that's always been on your mind? That.
Well, I mean.
You're obviously a leader in the military.
Yeah, and there's no book. I was actually talking to a coworker of mine. Like, you could go to leadership classes and all this stuff and major in it in college, but there's no book. When certain things happen, you just have to react. But yeah, like, as you work your way up and you get in charge of people, you want to learn like how to be the best example leader. So yeah, I sought that out. I've read all kinds of books. I listen to all kinds of. If I open my phone, it's all kinds of leadership podcasts.
Yeah.
Audible, same thing. That's kind of what I'm getting at. How can I be the best for my folks that I lead, if you will?
Yeah. How can we be the best leaders that God created us to be? And if we're put in a position to lead people, man, it's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
So I take my personal leadership potential very seriously. And that's something that's happened just by owning a business. You kind of get it by proxy that people look to you for answers.
You better have them.
You better have them.
Yeah.
In the military, there's a structure where you go up. In a small business, there's nobody above my position. So it's like I got to figure stuff out, and I have to be confident in the answer we're going and the vision we're casting. But in a lot of ways with your squadron, with the people you lead, even though you have, I'm assuming, a chief above you that's managing or that's helping you progress, you still have to be the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no, so directly above me, I have an E9. I work for an 05 who's an officer, a squadron commander. And then above him is an 06, a full bird colonel. They're all my bosses in some semblance. The 05 is kind of directly. But yeah, like, the day-to-day, he is in charge of a lot of areas, functional areas. I'm in charge of one functional area. If that area goes wrong, he's looking at me.
That's right.
And I better have an answer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know at that level is not the right answer.
Is there any stories come to mind, Seth, where like you felt you took a massive step in leadership or a big jump where you can point to a certain time to say, like, this changed my life?
Oh, so coming to Illinois was a big jump. So I'll just tell a little piece. So when Jen and I left active duty, I was deploying a lot. Like, I deployed between 2009 and 2012. I was overseas more than I was in the States. And Jen's like, this is not cool. It's not a way to live life. We had a young kid. We took a leap of faith and went Air National Guard up in Fort Wayne. I knew a buddy from active duty. That led to that. But then coming here, so when I was in Fort Wayne, I progressed to E6, And then I went into another position, progressed to E7, worked directly for a squadron commander there as a resource advisor, did a bunch of other roles that prepped me to come to Illinois. I was not after any job. No, it was family that brought me back here. My in-laws live in Morton. Jen and I were away for 13 years. It was just an opportunity to get back. And my path was paved in Fort Wayne. Like, I could see E8 and E9. A good buddy of mine, which he'll listen to this too, is the command chief over in Fort Wayne.
What's his name?
Kyle Hoopengarner. We keep touch all the time. So I left that on the table to come back for family. Being in the position that I'm in now was not on my bingo card. It just happened. It was kind of right place, right time. But when I took over as a superintendent in AFE, I had only been in the career field about 3 years. So I am leading this group with pretty little experience in that career field of doing what they do. But that in that position that's really not what's asked. It's the leadership part. It's the management part. Can you take these people to the next level? Do you have the it factor to do it? And the command at the time thought I did. And we had conversations when I first showed up to Peoria that who's now the wing commander was my OG, my forward colonel.
What's an OG mean?
An ops group, and that's what I fall under. So I'm in operations. Sorry for using jargon that you're not used to, but so they're a wing, and then we have groups. So I fall under the operations group. He's now the wing commander. But anyway, we had a conversation when I came on board, and when I got put in this position, he was like, "Remember the conversation we had years ago?" I said, "Yes, I do." And so coming here was a big, I wouldn't say in leadership, but then in faith that led to leadership. And just being the best you can be where you're at. I've never looked ahead. Like, I've never, like, even now, like, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to go in that position. It's like, no, I'm going to do the best thing. I'm going to do the best right here. And I'll look when those opportunities come up, but I'm not, if I don't put on E9, like, I still had an extremely successful career. But I've never chased it, if you will.
In business, in roofing or in construction, there's so much weight put on top line revenue about how many jobs you're doing and how much revenue you're pushing. And it's a trap because you can get ahead of building the fundamentals that it takes to build a business. I often compare business to like a pizza shop. You ever been to Agatushi's? Okay. It's a pizza shop that's been around for probably a century in Peoria. I'm not sure how long, but I imagine sometime in early 1900s. It's over on University. It's been the same pizza shop for a long time. But in order to get the people in the doors and to keep them coming back and to have the same kind of rituals and the same like manufacturing of the pizza, you got to build the machine first, the oven to cook it. You have to build the experience of how you treat people. It's the basic fundamentals that can lead to a bigger pyramid. And I think what we do in 2024 for business is we try to go, okay, how fast and how high can we go as fast as possible? And the downside of that is the fundamentals are never built. And so over 19 years in the military, you had to build a lot of fundamentals in those first 18 to get where you are now.
Oh, yeah.
You can look back at experiences 6 years ago and say, I know how to deal with this situation because of X, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. Big time. Especially in the environment we live in, like the deploying side too. Like, I just got back in June. That was my 5th.
Your 5th deployment.
So I was able to speak to that to my folks that have never done it before, to be like, hey, this is kind of what to expect.
Yes.
I've kind of been there, done that, if you will. So yeah, for sure.
It brings a level of patience where you know what to expect. And I think that in the generation we're living in now, it's a microwave generation.
Yeah.
How fast and how much money can we make and how fast can we build stuff? Sure, there's a time and place for that. But the fundamentals of how to run an operation, any operation, it takes patience.
Yeah.
Personally, to deal with people, not only customers, but your staff, but also the patience to build a company worthwhile.
Yeah.
And the patience to build a squadron worthwhile.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because my current operations group commander, when he actually sewed on full bird colonel, he made mention of that. In the waiting, that's when it's built, not just a rocket ship to the top.
That's right.
Like, you learn that way when you get to the top, you're experienced, seasoned, if you will, and you're ready for when stuff hits the fan, you're ready for it.
That's right. I heard somebody describe it as if you were to build a house, if you were tasked to build a house, you've got to know about how to get electric to the house. You've got to know how to get a gas line to the house. You've got to know where the water's coming from. There's a lot of fundamental things that you don't think about before putting up your first stud or your first foundation.
Yeah.
And so even if you're a great concrete layer, you not lay a foundation, the house is worthless if it has no power, no water, no heat. So it's these fundamentals of, okay, maybe you're a good window framer, but to build a house, there's a lot more knowledge involved. And many of the things we think about nowadays, it's building a house. It's not becoming a window installer. You have to know the basics about many things before you can go really detailed into one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your deployment, you just came back, you said. Where did you go?
So we went over to Africa, Djibouti specifically. But, yep, that's where we were.
Djibouti. Yep. And I know you probably can't talk about the specifics and some of those things, but what are some of the lessons you took back from coming back from Africa?
So in that position, so I went, it was the first, so I've got a pretty unique, everywhere I've been, I've deployed in that unit. So North Carolina, deployed once.
Is that rare? Is that rare, Seth?
Maybe.
Okay.
I mean, and it was just kind of like wherever I went, it was happening, and I just so happened to go. Going to be here for a while, so I might as well talk a little bit about it. So North Carolina, I deployed with them. Went to Little Rock, deployed twice. I went guard up in Indiana, deployed with them. And that was kind of like, I wasn't supposed to go, but one of my coworkers, a tragic event happened to his family. I ended up taking his spot. Mm-hmm. So, and then I came here and went here. So, so I've had an opportunity to do that, with every unit, and it's different. So on this one, I didn't even know, and if he listens to this, my commander over there, that I was going to be the SEL the second half of this deployment. And what that meant was I had just put on senior. I put on senior almost a year ago. It had been February of 24, and he was like, hey, you're going to lead us out of here. So that's all the logistics, all the planning of getting the people out, getting the cargo out, all of that stuff. He's like, you're the guy it's going to be me and you that's going to do this. And our first shirt was massive, first sergeant, and I could explain that if you wanted me to, but he was a massive piece of that too. But the three of us kind of orchestrated that exit. That was probably the biggest, not challenge. It was actually kind of fun, but it was a lot of work. I got to work with all kinds of different organizations, different branches, because that's a naval unit. That's not an air unit, so that's a little bit different. But planning all of that, I'll never forget after it was done and like we were home, I said that was a heck of an experience. And I'll never forget, because when we rotate overseas, you go on a rotator. So it's a contracted plane that comes, picks up most of your people, and they fly you back home. So they flew us straight back into Peoria. I'll never forget standing on top of a pickup truck just to brief all these people, and we're talking about 150 roughly, give or take, and just like, holy cow, I'm doing it. Like this is and then I'm doing this. It's a weighty responsibility, but here I am doing it. He entrusted me to do it, and I'm doing it.
That's right.
So it was fun. It was cool. It was awesome. And I'll never forget, like, when that plane broke ground and went wheels up, I was done. Like, there was so much that happened within like a 2-week period of getting us out, that I was just spent.
Yes.
So
it's funny, man. When I first started the company 4 years ago, we're going on our 5th year here. The transition from saying you're going to do something to having people call you and say, I have a roof leak or I have a problem, I need you to help fix it. It's like 2 weeks ago, I wasn't that guy. And now I'm the guy. And then they're like, yeah, he can help. And so they just start giving you responsibility. And it's a mind it's a mind like jump to be like, I'm gonna talk about this thing. I'm gonna think I'm gonna do it, and then I pull the trigger, and then all of a sudden there's responsibility given to you. Then now I'm responsible. Not only am I going to do it, but if something goes wrong, I'm responsible. And it's a very big jump where once you do that one time, it becomes addicting. Where it's like, where can I take this?
Yeah.
Now that I know I can do this, and I understand the game, and I understand the responsibility, what else can I do this in my life with? Can I do this with my family? Can I do this with my friends? Can I do this with? You can just do things and learn how to do them.
Yeah. Yeah. And
at a very basic level.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what's next for me? I don't know. I'll definitely use that experience that I got there. I use it now.
Yeah.
And it was more, and I told him, the commander at the time, like, confidence more than anything. It's like, I can do this.
You can do this.
Yeah.
And then you start to look at other leaders in other spheres, and you think that they had the same trepidation that I had before I started.
Yeah.
And people I remember Steve Jobs said this many years ago in an interview where he said, if you take a look around the world around you, look at the big buildings that have been built, they were built by people no smarter than you.
Yeah. Put their pants on. And I say this to people all the time in the military, because you start off, you're a nobody here, and, you have a general come in and meet you, or they put their pants, and I say that, like, they put their pants on the same way you do.
That's right.
Maybe left leg first versus right leg. But other than that, it's pretty
I
much.
do both legs same time.
They're people just like you and I.
That's right.
That they're seasoned, right? Because they're at that level. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they're a human being just like you. And I've said that. Actually, I had a meeting about 2 weeks ago talking about myself a little bit. And I'm like, I'm no better than, I might be in a higher position and I have authority, but I'm no better than this brand new person that walked in the door a year ago. We both signed up to do the same thing. So yeah.
Yeah. But it takes the mental comes before the physical.
Yeah.
You got to commit and say that this is where I'm going now. This is who I am now. I remember when I first started, I changed my name on Facebook from Ben Morrow to Benjamin Tiger. And just this last week, Seth, I was playing pickleball with a guy that I'm friends with on Facebook. And he said, hey, I was checking into the front desk and I said that they spelled your name wrong. They had Ben Morrow down. And I was like,
that's my name.
Yeah. He goes, isn't your name Ben Tiger? And I've had that comment many times over the last 4 years. But it's just a reminder to me that I actually, there was a difference in my mindset when I changed my name on Facebook. I remember the time and the day that I did it and the place that I was at. But I said, I am no longer just this person. I'm going to become a business owner, an entrepreneur, a leader, and I'm going to change my life through this process. Like, I committed to it.
Yeah.
And when people started seeing that, people that I've known for 20, 30 years, they're like, what the heck is this kid doing? But to the new friends that I have, all they know is this. Yeah. All they know is what they see. And so we can change our lives if we commit to the process of doing so.
Yeah, and it's not easy.
No, it's not.
At all.
And you fail a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walk me through something that happened in your tenure that something did not go right that you learned a big lesson from.
Man, that's a really good question. I don't know.
How about a personal story, not necessarily military, but let's talk about something in your personal life that happened where you really failed and you've had to change gear and come back from. There's got to be something that sticks out. Seth has never failed in his life.
I'm just trying to think.
I'll tell you a story.
All right.
In the beginning, when we started to install roofs, I knew generally how that would work, that process would work out, but people kept calling us for gutters and fascia and siding. And if you know anything about the roofing trades, the trades people work on one specific trade, and some of them are far more prevalent than others. So roofing contractors and roofing labor is far more prevalent than siding, because siding takes longer, it's more skilled. And so I went to a job site to do a gutter and siding job. I had hired a crew. The guy that I had hired had sent 2 people that I did not know. So I showed up to the job site, and I don't know these guys, and they did a tremendous job. Before this time, I was turning people away hand over fist for siding and for fascia and soft because I had no idea how to do the process. But if you know anything about construction, it's the same steps every time. And I'm sure there's a lot of the military. Yeah. It's the same process every single time, but it's just a different trade in the middle. So there's a sales process, there's a planning process, there's the construction and the follow-up. And up until this point, I knew nobody in the siding and fascia and soffit industry. And so I met these guys, and I said, hey, what are you doing for lunch today? Took them out for lunch. I said, can you do X, Y, and Z? They said, yes. I said, how do you know the guy that I hired originally to do the job? They were loosely affiliated. So I said, hey, how about you just come work for me and we'll figure this out together. I don't know what that's going to look like, and let's do it. Again, not knowing anything about it. And they've stayed with me for the last 3.5 years. They're still our main installers for siding, for fascia.
Oh, they were at my house then.
Yeah,
recently.
Omar Miguel.
And they were
tremendous.
I couldn't believe, well, and we had some like spare siding. I can't think of the other guy's name that was at my house too. Mm-hmm. Who's your the project manager? It
was either Josh Shaber or Jordan or Riley.
I think it was Jordan.
Yeah.
And those guys were, I'm like, they're done already? He was like, oh yeah, they're out of here. And he was waiting for someone else to show up. So while you were talking, so I thought of,
good.
So I have.
Let me cap that story off.
Perfect. You're good.
But the point of that whole story is like you have to put yourself in a position to fail in order to learn new things that you didn't know before.
Yeah.
You have to be able to actually try something that you don't know how it's going to work, and then you just kind of find your way.
I say that to my kids. I say that to the folks that like you have, and that's where you learn too.
That's right.
Like it's not necessarily a mistake. Like, what lesson are you learning from it?
Big time.
So I'm not perfect.
You got it.
All right. So here we go. So I had just come off active duty to the Guard. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I hired on as a technician. I'm now active Guard reserve. A little bit different. Same thing. Full time, mm-hmm. Out there every day. I came off. I knew a guy there also, so kind of had a little bit of inside. And there was an active Guard reserve position. So the difference between the two, or what the differences are. So I was active duty, full-time active duty, came Guard. Mm-hmm. There are two different types of full-time out there. There's technicians, which are federal technicians that wear the uniform, but on paper, they're federal employees.
Okay.
They're also guardsmen. So they're traditional guardsmen, but they work out there full-time in the civilian capacity. I wanted to act an AGR position because I just did like 7.5 years. So I'm like, if I could just get right into one, I've got 13 and I'm done. So a position opened up. I'm like, I just came off active duty. I would blow everyone out of the water in an interview. Mm. And so I went in the interview and I was not hired. Mm. And when that happened, I was like, you got to be kidding. Like, and not only did they not hire me, they hired a guy that hadn't even been to tech school for my job yet. And I'm like, what? And so what's crazy though is looking back on that hindsight, I'm humble. Here you go.
Yeah.
And I just kept grinding. And about a year after that, a position opened, with a promotion also. And I did that for a couple of years. And then another position opened, with the promotion. And I kept moving. So, and now like hindsight, really looking 2020, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed doing what I was doing once I got to know the people and the dynamic of everything. So, and I've said this to some of my folks that where things don't go their way, I'm like, it happens. Like it happens to not just you, it happened to me.
That's right.
And you got to be able to bounce back from that.
Use it.
Yeah. So I just was like, all right, well, I guess I'll try the next one, but I'm not going to be like, poor me and just quit. I'm going to keep grinding. And like I said, the next one that opened, it was in a different section, same job, got it. And then I continue to progress from there. So
There's a quote that says, success is going from failure to failure with no loss in enthusiasm.
yeah.
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 Dude, it's so true. But how many times do we stop right before the success is right there? Right before the breakthrough comes, you stop because you feel downtrodden and you feel, my faith has become more and more important the older I get because, they say that the world is never filled with always and nevers.
Yeah.
But God is filled with a lot of always and nevers, that he never leaves us, that he's always beside us. So it's like I take refuge in the fact that no matter what my story is, I'm going to break through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've got to have some kind of rock, if you will, to like that.
Yeah.
To hold on to hope, if you will.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Because life can be very depressing if you let it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to a lawyer friend of mine this past week, and he's going through some stuff right now with just several different things. And I made a comment. I've been through some pretty difficult things in the past 5 years, 6 years of my life that I never thought I had to deal with. And I said the most beautiful things can come from the most depressing.
Yeah.
The most beautiful things. Because, man, what an experience you can tell a story to your kids about in the future.
Yeah.
That when they're dealing with being, their friends didn't invite them to a party or things didn't go their way. It's like, hey, I've been there.
Yeah.
I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And we're going to get through this together.
I tell my kids a lot. So I kind of mentioned it on the outset, my parents divorced when I was young.
Yeah.
Now with my kids, my son will be 13 this year. My daughter will be 11. It's insane because I was younger than my son when that happened.
Mm.
And Will and I talk, and something like we had a conversation recently, and he kind of got emotional about it. I was like, buddy, it's all right. Like, you can be sad for me. I was like, but the cool part is, like, now, like, I was like, me and we get to write our own stories.
That's right.
We get to write our own stories for our family. So I'm like, yes, that happened to me. I was like, however, what do I get to take from that and use it now, right? So doing things that I wish I could do when I was his age. That's what we're doing.
Was he getting emotional at the fact that you were telling the story
just
about
some of
your
the
upbringing?
Yeah, just some of the sads, like, both my parents weren't around, all the time. So, and his are always around, except for when I've been gone for work and stuff like that. But other than that, we're all in all the time.
Yeah.
So,
what a beautiful thing, man. Kids, I can't point to a single thing that has impacted me more than being a father.
Yeah, and as they get older, it gets more awesome.
It does.
Like,
yeah,
because you get to teach like just super valuable lessons. Like probably one of the biggest, and you could, well, what's your ick? Liars. Liars is my ick. Like people that can't own mistakes.
100%.
Because you can't learn from it if you don't own it.
Yeah.
And so teaching him that, kids, he has a cell phone, and what are you doing on it? Let me see it. Like all that stuff. And it's like, hey, just own it. Hey, this is what I did.
Yeah.
And I've told both my kids, like, hey, it is the act, right? There are things that are really bad, but I'm like, for the most part, it's not the act itself. It's to have the ability to own it and then learn from it.
1,000,000%. Jocko Willink, are you familiar with him?
And so I read that when I was in college, because I went to school later. I was in Fort Wayne, actually, best book on leadership.
Yeah.
Now they went back and did a dichotomy, because it's not everything, but it's a lot.
Man.
It's a lot.
Extreme accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're a business owner. I supervise people. It stops with you.
Us. That's right.
And that's hard.
That's right.
It's tough. But at the end of the day, like, what could I have done if there was a problem or whatever? What did I not do?
That's right. And if there's a repeated problem, it's a process problem.
Yeah.
That means that something's happening every single time that keeps repeating itself. So there's a change in the process and the chain of custody and the responsibility of the people. And but just the idea of extreme ownership to me has changed a lot in my life. I think, so I got divorced when I was 29 years old, 30 years old, 29.
Yeah, and that part of our connection was Because you talked about that.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal, but I think the main thing that I learned through that process was like, I needed to take massive ownership of my life. Yeah. So when I would go on dates, when I first was newly divorced, and I would, go out, and the conversation would come up of your life story and all this stuff. And oftentimes when you talk to other divorced people, the conversation would quickly devolve into, well, my ex-spouse is crazy, or this stuff happened to me that was bad. You're relinquishing certain details that you might have been a part of.
Yeah, there's three sides to every story.
Exactly.
One side, the other side, and
the
what's
truth.
the truth in the middle.
Exactly. And after hearing myself speak about the situation 6 years ago, I got sick of myself, where I'm like, man, you're pretty weak. Yeah, seriously, I got sick of myself telling the same sad story. And it's like, you know what? Actually, I had a lot to do with my own demise. And that one thought, when I started listening to myself and actually listening to others saying like, no, your life is your life is your problem. Your happiness is your problem. Your contentment and your position in life is all up to you, period, end of story. Yeah. And I think the big transition of growing up and maturing as an adult is that you have your parents to rely on for a long period of time. And even nowadays, like more and more people are living at home. And that can be really dangerous if you're constantly waiting for somebody else to say go before you jump. Yeah.
Yeah.
So throughout that process, I think the first thing that I started to talk about was like in myself, it's like extreme accountability. Everything is my job in my life. If it's under my command, it's my job to take care of, bad or good.
Yeah. What do you control?
That's right.
I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's like life is what, 10%?
90%.
I forget what the quote is.
90% no. 10% what happens to you, 90% how you react.
Yeah. And that's it.
It's a fact. Have you ever run across somebody in the military or otherwise who just like exudes that every day? Who like, I'm thinking of somebody in my mind, like who's so joyful through bad circumstances. Yeah. This will happen and something will come from this. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to be around those people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're not energy vampires. I read a book, The Energy Bus by John Gordon, and that's a real thing too. Sure. Because one can take it out of everybody.
That's right. I can fall into that category if I allow myself. If I allow myself, I can be pretty pitiful. Yeah. About what's not going well.
Or like being around people that when you walk away, something has been taken from
That's right. That's right.
And not been given to you.
Yeah. But where I take from that is like, how can I be the most joyful giver of my energy? And man, if I can wake up every day with that mindset, I'll have a better vision on life. Yeah. Yeah. So let's go to family. You and Jenica have been married for how long?
It'll be 19 years in June.
So 19. You joined the military the same year you got married.
So I joined, it had been January 3rd of 06. We got married June 2nd of 07. Yeah. Yeah, it's insane. Matter of fact, before I came here, we went to breakfast after she drives a bus for Morton School District. Yes. And it's wild. Like, yeah, 19 years this June.
Wow. Congratulations, man.
Thanks. And, coming here, I'm like, I don't know what we're going to get into. This is going to be an hour. I didn't know how long it was going to go. But because you said family, mindset, military, like when we were first talking. Yeah. And I would say for her and I, it's just unadulterated communication. Like, now we are, the other thing that I was 19. She was 20.
Your baby.
We wouldn't anyway. We couldn't have beer at our wedding. Like, how crazy is that? We are different people today than we were then. Yes. And what you have to do, you have to allow each other to grow. And that communication is the key piece. Like, hey, something's bothering me. I need to know about it right now, not later. Yeah. And that, especially with all the time away, I was looking, like, when I got home, like, we've been apart, like, we've been married 19, but we've been apart almost 3. Wow. So, and in that time, every single time, this last one was the shortest, and she would tell you the most rough, because my kids are older. it was just they were aware. She was like, I was not prepared for this. For this time around, she's, we've done this 4 times. As if, what's another one? But yeah, that would be, because I was saying, like, what would you say would be like the keys? It's the communication part. Like, it has to be there.
Yeah.
And if you are not constantly communicating on the same page, like, yeah, it's not. You're not going to go from a 19-year-old to now I'm 37. She'll be 40 this year. It's crazy.
Shout out Jenica.
Yeah. So
She's a sweet person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, like, we're programmed by our upbringing. Yeah. And we weren't raised in the same family.
No.
So how you communicate versus how your wife communicates can be very different things.
Yeah. And like, mine was very different than hers. Her parents are still together. It's been married 40 plus years, blue collar family. It's a very small family. I came from a large family. Mom was married a couple times, saw a lot of crazy stuff. That was the other thing. We were talking over breakfast, and I'm like, I'm not going to get into a lot of that stuff, but it's stuff that I'll never forget.
Sure. It helps shape you as a human being.
100%.
Yeah.
So, like, as things happen, it's not going to, like, shake me because I've seen the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, surprise factor, like, oh, what do I do? I've seen a lot that I wouldn't want my kids to see.
Yeah.
But, and it'd be crazy to say this, but I'm glad I've experienced it.
That's right.
So
yeah, as difficult as my life was 6 years ago, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
And I think when every person goes through hard struggle and pain, it tends to be the thing that shapes them for the better or for the worse.
And then you've got kids too, like, what lessons from that?
That's right.
Can I parent my kids way different than I was parented.
Yes, same.
Like, very wide, like, I'm after that openness, that honesty, like, you gotta have it. If I teach, that's how I tell Will, I'm like, if I teach you nothing else, is to be that authentic, honest, like, all the time. So same with my daughter, Evelyn.
Yes. I think that parenting's changed a lot in the past 60, 70 years, but we have so much more knowledge and insight and history. Like, we can go to YouTube and look up how people parent their kids. My parents in the 80s didn't have that. All you have is your experience and your community's experience on how to parent. And so they did the best that they could do with the skill set and the time they were given. Yeah. And now we have almost the burden of knowing what good parenting looks like through the internet and, like, psychologists and how to raise children. And it's almost like puts downward pressure on you to be perfect. And so I think that with running a bit, anything, you can look up how to be a better E8 military guy from YouTube probably right now. Yeah. And the same thing with I'm really connected with the internet, with the roofing community on the internet. And it can be daunting at times to be like, man, these guys are so good at certain things and I'm not there yet. And we can hold this like, I'm here and they're there, and you compare yourself, and it can become difficult. So allowing yourself grace in the process of change is really valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in marriage, something as important as marriage and raising family.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that we said was, you hear the adage, like, marriage is 50-50. And it's like, I think it was Brene Brown. I don't know what book it was, or maybe it was a podcast. She was like, that's not true. Like, it's not 50-50.
That's right.
There's days where it's 90-10. There's days it's 60-40. It's not 50-50. Sometimes it is.
Sure.
Or sometimes it's 100-0, right? Like, so yeah. So you just got to know where that's at.
Yes. I talked to Bob Woolsey this last week from Jones Brothers Jewelers, and he said the same thing: communication and willing to help the counterpart when they're going through difficult times, because you're going to change and shift as you go. Let's talk about the 3 years you've been gone, and they can say that distance makes the heart grow fonder. Do you find that to be true in your deployment?
Yeah, 100%.
Talk about that.
So, yeah, I mean, it does. Like, you long to be after that person, and you can't. I mean, you can do video, you can do all that stuff, but it's like, yeah, that's my everything.
Hugging your wife is becomes that much more important.
Yeah, and like adding it all up, because at the time, like, I'm in the military. This is what I do. Like, I signed up for this. It's part of the deal. And it's like, once you go and go and go, it's like, holy cow, it's been a long time. If you accumulate all that up, like 3 years, like, holy cow. But yeah, definitely every single time. And then when you come back, you're not getting to know your spouse again, but you're reconnecting again.
Yes.
Because we we're communicating all the time with text and video. And I've talked to Will and Evelyn every day at a set time. I called every day at this time.
Yes.
It's not the same. It's not the same. Like, even my daughter sometimes plays like hard to get, and it's like she just wants you there, like in the house. Doesn't have to be with her, but when you're not there, it's different. And so that like really that hits, because it's like because it's like, well, I'm here. You might be messing around on your iPad, like we're not even like interacting, but it's that presence.
Yes.
I made we're sharing stuff. So this last year I made a decision. I was selected to go to, so in the military, you go through leadership school. So you start at the bottom with Airman Leadership School. You go through NCO Academy. Then you go through Senior NCO Academy. So each level, so E1 to E4, E5 and E6, and then E7 to E9 is the top rung. And then after that, it's kind of up to you whether you want to keep pursuing education. Like, I have my bachelor's degree, a couple associates from the Air Force, and then I was selected to go to a joint service PME. So
what is joint service for listeners?
So all the branches. So when we deploy, it's joint service. So when we deploy out to areas, we're not just going we're working with all the branches. So an opportunity that I got to do and was selected was to go to the Marine Corps Senior NCOA. So they call it a sister service academy. So I, as an Air Force member, would have embedded with the Marines, and it was quite a while. It was like over 2 months.
Were you the only person from your squadron that went to this?
I was the only person in the nation selected last year.
Holy moly. Was that daunting?
Yes. So listen, so what happened, or how this rolled out. So I applied the year before, knowing that we were on the horizon for a deployment. And I'm like, it's fine. And my commander at the time, if he listens to this, where I laugh, was like, are you biting off more than you think you can chew? I got it. As that drew near, the deployment wrapped, we got back home, and it was kind of like, and Jen made the comment of, you're just using this as like a stopover for the summer, because then I was headed out to Virginia to go to this course, and that weight was just piling up. And I pulled the plug on it. Like, it was like last minute. It was last minute. I said to myself, I have put this uniform ahead of her and ahead of them for 19 years. Would it have given me another, on my resume? Like, absolutely. Only person in the unit to have to go, have gone and done that. And would I have done well? Yeah. Was it worth it? I don't know. But at the time, I was like, we're not doing that. And it was, when I came home, I broke. Because I had just come home, and I'm like, I'm going to go out again. And I'm like,
how long would you have been gone for?
It was 2 months, roughly. Yeah. And I'm like, well, not doing that. Plus, I had a bunch of stuff. I'm in a position of leadership, right? I had a bunch of stuff going on also. Yeah. But talking about not like failure moments, but like just moments of, I'm not perfect.
Not being clear.
Yeah, or like, you can handle it all. And it's like, I had a bunch of stuff going on at work when I was going to be out, and it's like, is this a good idea? And it just came, plus factor in the family. Yeah. And it was like, nope, not doing it. So So yeah, back to like the relationships, like, and she told me like afterwards, she was like, you put me first. And that was like and I haven't, you know, the military's come first.
Right.
So that was huge. Obviously she was excited.
Sure.
But yeah, just a little insighted story.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's I've told this to my guys many times. Winning is a skill. So like, let's talk about a really good player, not like a specific player, but a player, let's say in basketball versus Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan is clearly a very good basketball player, but Michael Jordan knew how to win.
Yeah.
And it's an identified specific skill set that when the game is on the line and you want to take the shot, he's got it, right? It's like the pressure moments of life. And how we can relate to that is that the more pressure moments we put ourselves in, where we're going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning because we stay up and we're like, what the heck are we going to do? The more you put yourself in those positions, the more calm you can get and say, hey, back to the priority list. What process do we have to work ourselves through to make sure that this is going to be solid? Because the more you grow older, the more responsibilities you have, the more people count on you. And so it's in those moments as a leader that like, the older I get, the more I'm in this, it's like, if I would have had this moment 4 years ago, I would have screwed it up royally.
Yeah.
But over time, you start to win more and you start to be in those stressful situations and you can pull out of those. Sounds like you had like a moment of clarity where you're like, no, this is what I'm going to do and this is why, even though you wanted to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it was one of those things where it was like, not to like negate the importance of it.
Sure.
'Cause super important, would have been really cool to be able to speak to and that kind of thing. But it'd be another line on my resume. Like that's
Is that more important than my family?
Boom.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I just was gone. And that was, I had to weigh all that. And it's like, no, I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've spoken on a few stages in the roofing community for conferences, and it was a big honor to be invited to speak. I enjoy speaking in front of public crowds, and it's a big deal when you go to these things because there's only, there's probably 1,000 or 500 or however many people there, and there's only like 10 speakers, 15 speakers. So it's the same thing. It's like you're one of few.
Yeah. And
after doing 3 or 4 of these, I got invited to another one in a different city, gone for the weekend. And my wife is like, I don't want you to go, same thing. It's like you feel importance from the community that you're part of.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's at the detriment of your own family who you are directly responsible for every day.
Yeah.
And it might not sound like a big deal to go 2 months or 2 days.
No.
But to those people that we're reliable to, it's like, man, that's a long time.
And I say this to a lot of folks that are in the military too. My brother is also in, and I've said this to him before too. This roller coaster stops at some point. You get off.
That's right.
When you get off, you want the people that are standing behind you to go with you.
What are you coming back to?
Correct. So you have to balance that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I get off and I hang it up, I want those 3 people with me.
Even fast forward to the end, I think about, this is going to sound morbid, but I think about the death of my own life often. And this, not often in the sense that like I'm going to die, but like, what am I doing? What am I doing that's going to lead to a family and friends at that time that will be precious to me?
Yeah.
I can tell you for sure I won't be thinking about top line revenue.
No.
Yeah. I'll be thinking about my life, my life's work. Yeah, of course, it's necessary.
But it's, yeah.
But how
no
quickly?
No one's at the end be like, I wish I had one more job.
Bingo.
Or would have had one more.
One more position.
No.
One more thing on your resume. I used to work in a corporate company that's massive and has thousands of employees. And when you're in those positions, it seems to consume your life where you're like thinking about the next promotion. The assistant manager, district manager. You're trying to work your way up through the rat race.
Yeah.
And I've known people that have retired from those high-ranking positions, and they don't go back to like, the glory days. And they're not talking about their job. They're talking about the people that they were with.
Yeah.
It's all about the people that you're with and the time you spent and the lessons you learned. And it's so easy to be swept up into the right now thing. that this is the most important thing. And then if that's not, what else is the next thing? And man, if we can just transition our brain, I know Europeans and other countries have a very different view on work versus life.
Oh yeah.
Because they understand that more than we do. And somehow in American culture, we've devolved it into what's your net worth and how important are you?
Yeah. What do you do?
What do you do? When you go to a party, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Right?
And
Not who you are as a human being.
Yeah. That's the the level stick.
The litmus test.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because people are far more than what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're human beings, Seth.
Yeah.
Not human doings.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's if we could just keep that perspective every day, I think that, I've known people that on the success level of the corporate ladder or the monetary schedule didn't have it all figured out, but their life's work was who they were as a person.
Yeah, that's what you're going to be remembered for.
That's it.
Yeah, who was Ben Tiger, Ben Morrow?
Yeah.
What is he like, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I hope to, the funny thing is, Seth, is like these two things go hand in hand, that starting this company and doing this process, even doing this podcast, it's led me to be able to work on those things as I do it. It shaped my character as I go. Because as I fall down, face down, and, eat crap, I learn a lot of life lessons from it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can think of the same things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So 13-year-old William and 11-year-old.
She just turned 10. She'll be 11 this year.
11 this year. Her name is?
Evelyn.
Evelyn.
Yeah.
How's the experience of raising, like getting into that tweener stage of life?
That's what I was saying earlier. Like it's funny, Jenica, like as they get older, and I do too, right? They're getting older. Like Evelyn turned 10, and and it's like these are the most critical years.
Yes.
Like especially Will he's in 7th grade, going into 8th grade, where you're able to talk about stuff that matters. Mm-hmm. Like they have Morton does a thing called Leadership Academy on half days of school, and it allows Will and I, like the 2 nights ago, I was like, hey, Monday was a half day. I'm like, hey, what did you learn in Leadership Academy? I think we were talking about self-awareness. Mm. So it allows you to have those critical conversations as they, age, and that becomes important.
They're living it.
Yeah.
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 And talk about being a leader in a 7th grade classroom, man. I mean, yeah. I'm not saying talk about it, but think about that.
Yeah.
Like, remember what it's like to be in 7th grade?
Yeah.
I think we quickly forget what it's like to be a child, and we start to treat our kid, and it's like, man, I remember what it was like to not be invited to something, or I remember what it's like to not fit in, or,
Yeah.
These are difficult life things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ages now, I was just down in North Carolina visiting family, and I've got a half sister and a sister that have little tiny kids, like 2 and under. Mm. And it's funny because my brother and I have kids that are my kids' age, and it's like this is awesome. Like, yeah, it's.
Are you talking about this responding to your kids' ages or their ages?
Our kids' ages now?
Yes, I have a 6-month-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal, dude. I'll tell you, it is really hard. I woke up this morning to come to work, and Monica, the baby, was up every half hour to an hour. And it's like, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And you can't tell them things.
Yeah, and they can't tell you things either.
No. I am very much enjoying, my kids are 10 and 9. My older kids are 10 and 9. Or I'm sorry, 9 and 8. About to be 10 and 9. And I'm terrified of 7th, 8th freshman year. I'm terrified right now. No. I'm just looking forward, and I'm like, man.
And the thing is too is like Will, when he first started, like 7th grade this year, so like going to different classes and all this stuff, and the first couple of days we're like, how's it going? He's like, man, it's stressful. Like going to class, he's like, I got to go to the bathroom in between all this stuff, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It's all, yeah. I heard somebody talk about we give such a hard time to our parents sometimes, just because, they raised us, and we take a lot of our habits and how we think from our parents. But this is their first time living too.
Yeah.
This is their first time being a parent as well to older kids. And so they're going through the same thing that we're going through. They already went through what we're going through. you know?
Yeah, you're right.
And so the level of grace that I want to level towards my parents this next year, hopefully, you know, this is their first time living life too. Being 65, 66, 67 years old.
With kids that have kids.
Adult kids.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. We don't know what it's like to be grandparents yet.
No.
Hopefully we'll be good.
Yeah.
So you moved back from Indiana to Illinois. You've been in Illinois now in Morton for how long?
It'll be 6 years this coming May.
6 years. You've reached out to me several times to invite our company over to look at
that's going to happen.
It'll happen. Yeah. But do you find yourself in the position that you're in with leading a squadron and being a leader, like wanting to involve the community into what you do and to have them understand that?
The community is essential in the Guard.
Talk about that.
Extremely. We live here. It's so when we look at the really big difference between the active component and the Air National Guard or National Guard is that state entity. So there's a unit here in Peoria. There's one in Springfield. There's one down by St. Louis at Scott or attached to Scott. Those people live in those communities. They're from those communities. So like when I was active duty, it's like, oh, where are you from? People from all over the country. And then when I went to Indiana, it's like everyone's from this area. And I don't have family around here. I just work here. So coming back here, I'm from here. I graduated from Morton. I live in Morton. My in-laws live, like, we have deep ties, but we still can serve our country at the same time, which is incredible. And like for someone like me who transitioned off active duty into the Guard, I can still get that retirement too. And that was kind of the beauty of it. Like, hey, I can come back here. And that's what, like, Jenica, because at the time, it was like 20 out. Like, we're going back to Illinois to be by mom and dad. Cool. But then when I came back here, she's like, do as long as you want. Like, you're here. This is where we wanted to be anyway. But the community is huge in the Guard just because of that. We don't move around.
Right.
We're here. This is our homes. This is our community. And you'll notice that it's kind of cool. I went to Louisville recently. I've been out to Western New York to their unit, and every unit you go to, it is a reflection of that area.
Yes. They speak the language.
Yes, and it's not you're not going to an active unit where they're doing the job, but they don't have really ownership of that area because they're not from there.
Sure.
So.
In business, it's the same way, man. I think that so business used to be, let's say 100 years ago, most of the time business was very local, and then you maybe spread out to a geographical area and then maybe grew from there. But now we live in an international age where I can buy something on Amazon and have it shipped from China to my house, yeah? So we've kind of like weakened the local economy because of those. The shipping and products have become nationwide and global. My point is that people that from Chicago, if they came to Peoria and ran the same operation from Chicago to Peoria, it wouldn't translate as well.
Yep.
Because you don't know how the people speak here. The traffic laws are different here. You've driven to Chicago many times.
The speed of life is different.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And people would say we're slow down here. But man, I hate driving in Chicago traffic. That's just one small subculture thing. But like the mentality of almost killing somebody while moving through traffic is common up there. Yeah. It's scary. Around here, man, it's like 74 has no traffic almost ever.
Yeah,
you know? People aren't cutting each other off. You rarely hear a horn go off with cars here. Yeah. There, it's it's just like bam, 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 bam. I understand people might crave that lifestyle, but what I'm trying to say is that business operates different based on the culture that you're in.
Yeah.
And so as a roofing company and as a solar company, I want to represent the people that live here and how they want to be transacted with, right? How I'm going to treat people in the warranties and the follow-up and the satisfaction. I take that very personally.
That's how you're going to get more business.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like part of our DNA as Peorians.
Yeah.
I think that's how we're built. And I think maybe if I lived in New York City and I grew up there, I'd have a different mentality.
Yeah.
But business here is all about trust and respect, period.
Yeah.
Maybe that's everywhere, but I'd say people know each other far more here. Like the local community is very tight.
Yeah.
There's not too many people that are doing something of nature that people don't know about, right? It's
yeah.
Like everybody kind of moves in the same fashion.
Yeah, because then I mentioned there's a girl in the gym I go to, Jamie Truelove, and I told her, I said, hey, I may name drop you. on the pod. I was like, I have an opportunity to be on this podcast today because she runs Big Brothers Big Sisters here in Central Illinois.
Fantastic.
She's also part owner of that gym.
What gym is this?
River City CrossFit downtown.
Sure. Okay. Is that over off of right? It's like downtown by the Civic Center, right?
Yeah,
right?
really close to the Civic. There's two. There's CrossFit Peoria and there's River City. We're closer to the hospital.
I know exactly where you're at.
But I asked her. I said, "Have you heard of?" Yes, I have. Yeah. And it's like people see you.
Yeah. That name sounds really familiar.
What's that?
Jamie Truelove?
Yeah. So her husband.
What's her maiden name? Do you know?
I don't.
And she seems like somebody who came from East Peoria.
But her husband is Patrick and Swayze.
Yeah.
He's part of that.
Is he Patrick or Swayze?
I don't know. Yeah. His name's Chad, though.
Patrick and Swayze is a local band.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. They've played some pretty big venues, that band.
Yeah. They're very good.
They're like really good, yeah.
Very.
I don't think I've seen them in concert, but I've heard they're amazing.
The first time I saw them live, I walked up to Chad. I'm like, dude, you guys are really good. Like, it's not just like some garage band that got thrown together. Like, they're extremely talented.
Yes.
But anyway, I said that to her today, and she said, I have heard of, I'm like, have you heard of Roof Tiger Solar Panther? Yeah. She's like, oh, yeah. And so, to your point, like, you're in the community.
Yeah, of course.
People know you.
Yeah, and not only because we are a roofing company, solar community. Like, I want to be a part of it.
Yeah,
I want to push my skill sets and everything that I have into the community because who wouldn't want to live in a place and build it up?
Yeah,
I think Peoria and this area gets such a bad rap sometimes because we just crap on the politics and we crap on the whatever the crime, or whatever the perceived threat of the city is. That if we had people that really bound together and said, no, I'm going to start speaking different things into this and just create something, we can do really big things here. I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it takes talented, skillful people with ambition to push the chips in the middle. We're not looking to sell out Peoria and then move to Chicago or move to St. Louis or move somewhere else.
You're here.
Let's build it.
Yeah.
Let's build it.
And that's what I appreciated. I mean, not to just keep coming back to the business, but that's what I appreciated about you from the outset. It was we're local, like really local.
Yeah, we're right here.
And that you want, like, if something goes wrong, I could call you.
Yeah, this podcast, Seth, from a lot of ways, I've been thinking about it for a couple months now, and how it's going to look and how it's going to shape it to be. Most of the time, people in the roofing community talk about roofing a lot, which I'll be talking about roofing on this and make videos about it and about specifics that people can research and know about. But I want to put Peoria on the map when it comes to people of note. I want to bring your voice to the public so they can listen to you and watch you and say, I don't know anything about the National Guard or about the military here locally. But there's people here that live in Morton, that work in Peoria. A lot of people that make our defense of this city and the defense of our state, like, that's their job.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just speak to that for a little bit. So, yeah, there's massive, matter of fact, like, who was the guy I met when I first walked in?
Probably Jordan.
Who was sitting down?
Was he Jordan?
Okay, so Jordan, who was standing up?
Noah.
So Noah was Army, Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
So when you left, then we started talking about, you could continue your service, like, in the air side if you wanted to.
Yeah.
If that was your passion.
Your goal.
Because that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he could do this, and he could be out there too. So I'm like, just put some thought to that if that's something you'd want to do.
Speaking of which, Seth, like, I'm sure your full-time job is not recruiting. You've got a lot of management stuff to do, but I'm sure you're always talking about the message.
Yeah, our leadership from the top to the bottom would say we're all recruiters at the end of the day.
For somebody listening to this, thinking about somebody in their life, who would you say is a descriptor of a good person to join? Yeah,
if you're looking to serve, be a part of something bigger than yourself. You've hit on it a few times throughout this, the people. It will give you a skill set. If you're a young person that, like I was, like, I don't want to go to, it will give you a skill. Mm-hmm. We'll train you. There's full-time opportunities out there in specific, but if you're just looking, they'll pay for your college. They'll give you health care. But the type of people, dependable, trustworthy. I mean, really anyone who's looking to because some people I sit on promotion boards every so often, and there are people, and I sit on this side, and they're being boarded, and I have told a couple people, like, you really don't need to be out here, like you don't need this. They want this though. They want to be a part of it, which is really cool because I'm like, I've been doing this since I was 18. This is somebody's part-time job that they really don't need, but they want it. But yeah, I would say like trustworthy, dependability, authentic, all of that stuff.
Do you think a mainline thread for the people who join is like a sense of willing to be a part of something bigger than themselves?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I would say that would probably be like one of the largest reasons.
This might be a silly question, but I'll ask it anyway. Is the level of patriotism in your group high? Do people love America?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
We wear it on our arm.
Yeah. I know people can get the benefit of working, right, for pay for college and for insurance, but there's got to be, the military is not a standard job.
No, I could go make more money somewhere else.
Sure you could. And sure you could, but there's also a host of other things you could do. But the point is that like you do the military because you want to protect and preserve the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the flag that's back there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what it's about.
I love the American flag, man. I am sincerely proud to be an American.
Yeah.
I am. Through no matter any political conversation going on, I'm very proud to be born in this country. I'm very proud to build a business here. I feel like I'm living the American dream.
There's a reason that people want to get here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty
it's not called the French dream.
No.
Or the Spanish dream. No hate on French or Spanish people.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that America is where things are built.
Yeah.
And I think lives are built.
Look at what you've done in 6 years.
Yeah, man. 4.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
But look at that.
Yeah. It's possible.
Yeah.
Life is possible here.
Yeah.
But not only that, like not only just like what you can get from the country,
the opportunity.
The opportunity. And you know what, Seth? Like in 2025, one of my goals is to get to get to know my neighbors more.
Yeah. I
want to have the white picket fence type mentality of going over to my neighbor. My neighbor, it just snowed at our place, and he's like a picture of the guy who's super handy, and he like has a tool, like a massive tool set up, and he's got all the things like a woodworking shop. And I'm the guy who kind of runs by the seat of his pants most of the time. I don't have all the tools. So it snowed a couple of days ago, and I had like this big shovel, like deep, big shovel that was not good for shoveling snow. He brought over this 4-foot wide snow pusher.
Yeah.
So I'm over here struggling on my driveway. He like came over and like zipped it out, no problem. Yeah. And so I immediately went on to Amazon. Bought one. And then it snowed a couple days ago. I came home. He was out shoveling his driveway. I brought over my big shovel.
Got it.
Help shovel. But like, man, that's like the beauty of neighbors in America. That is not something I don't think that is universal to the world.
Yeah.
Knowing your neighbors and their names and their kids and coming home and like truly being able to count on people. That's a very American ideal.
Yeah. I'm lucky to have good ones.
Yeah. Good neighbors are such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have tremendous neighbors, and I want to invest into neighborhoods, my neighborhood this year. So, talk about, so you're an American. When you travel, when you've done 5 deployments to these other countries, what's the biggest cultural difference you can spot or think of when you go to, I know there's many different places, but there's got to be a common theme of what separates America from the
Being
rest.
united. That's it. Like it doesn't matter. Like you take, and I laugh, but so when I was part of the 122nd up in Fort Wayne, we sent a deployment out, and we were sending a lot of cargo out. And one of the airplanes that takes cargo is called the C-17. One of our C-17 units in the International Guard is from Mississippi. And when these guys landed and they opened the back door, that was Mississippi on that airplane. But when
you mean the accent?
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you say
The
united, though, we could go with them, and it's that binds us all together.
Yeah.
Other countries don't have that. They don't. So I'll give you an example. A chief, this was in my time in Fort Wayne, explained like Afghanistan. I'll give you a really quick example of the difference of America versus something like that. Very tribal community. So it would be like, I live in Tazewell County. We're in Peoria County. My Tazewell people might not, be good with your Peoria County people. We don't look at it that way here. I live in Morton, in Illinois, in the United States. And if we needed to bind together to do something, we're doing that.
We're an American.
Yeah.
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 I traveled abroad to India when I was 20 years old and lived there for 4 months, study abroad. And many people don't know this, but India is one of the only countries, in my knowledge, in the world that they have, I'm not going to butcher how many states. I think there's up near 20. But every state has their own language. So if you can imagine, Seth, traveling from Illinois to Indiana and them speaking 2 different languages.
Yeah.
And not only the language, Seth, but the writing is different. So when you travel from north to south, the road signs, unless you speak the direct language, you have no idea what they're saying. So many Indian people speak many languages they have to.
Yeah.
So most of the time, Hindi is the national language. So a lot of states adopt Hindi as one language, but then they have their local language. Then a lot of people speak English. So a lot of Indian people, if you speak to them, just ask them how many languages they speak. It's extremely common for them to speak 3-4 languages.
That's crazy.
Crazy. So my name Benjamin written in Marathi, which was the state language that I learned, is different from Benjamin in Hindi, which is the national language. And if I traveled, 100 miles downward, different writing, different spelling, different pronunciation.
Yeah, so
imagine.
Yeah.
Imagine if you went to the Mississippi C-17 and you guys spoke 2 different languages and 2 different scripts.
Yeah.
Not very united. Yeah.
No.
And that's not a downplay on India. I love the
no.
country and the people. It's just a cultural difference that we are standing different.
Because that was, so not to get into like details, but like it's a completely different culture.
Yeah.
And we're probably not going to bring that to bear in other places if they don't want it.
Sure.
Right?
Where has it worked out in the past 100 years anyway?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I would say, so back to your original question, being united.
United.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So the American flag was one of the requests that I had for building this room out, and I love the American flag. I just learned, Seth, that when you hang the American flag vertically, that the stars, I learned this a few months ago, always go top left.
Yep.
And it's just one of those things where people, especially in the military, are very proud of the flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. And carrying the flag and making sure it doesn't touch the floor and folding it certain ways, which Seth, for the listeners out here, gave me a flag that you flew on a plane in Djibouti. And it's hanging up in my house, in my pool. I think I see a picture.
Yeah, I didn't know when I saw the studio. I didn't know if it was that one.
This is a different
one.
one.
Cool.
This is a special place in my personal home.
Okay.
I love it. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I love that flag.
Yeah. And we do that stuff for just when I thought of people to do that, like from the outset, the authenticity that you bring.
Yeah.
Like you could tell, and I tell people this if they're looking into this kind of work. That's why when a tree fell on my house and I need a roof work, I text you.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, hey, I got to let this process play out, but I want you guys to do the work.
We got you.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was great, just like the solar.
There's something bigger that in that statement that you just said is it's, again, going back to like the top line revenue and how big companies are, how many millions of dollars they do, whatever. Is that what we're chasing? Is just to be a big company with a bunch of money? Or are we chasing a community-driven, respected business that people can look to and say they do things the right way no matter what happens?
Yeah. That should be the goal.
That's the goal, regardless of revenue.
And guess what? If you do that,
that's it.
The other will follow.
It'll follow. But many people chase the revenue and lose their souls and their culture in between. Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. So
if you start, and I tell people this all the time, you came in and wrote it. I'd have to look, see if I can find on the back of a mail envelope. Yeah. I already knew.
That was a little bit not childish, but immature or not professional.
Hey, but it wasn't some spiffy
Yeah.
thing. It was like, hey, this is the number. This is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah. We do have better sales presentations now.
Hey.
But I tell my sales reps, we live and breathe this, that we are people of the community and we are going to meet people where they're at. And the engineer who wants to know numbers and gigawatt and kilowatts and the specific nature, we can speak to that.
Most people, it's just dollars.
Dollars and just, do you trust this person? Yes or no?
Yeah. And that was from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's where, and I could tell just from what you were sharing, because most people wouldn't share
Yeah.
detailed parts of
Personal
their life.
Yeah.
So
I think that's important, man. To know if you're going to pay me a certain portion of your earned living, I better be able to be trusted in that because I'm going to be with you for a long time.
yeah.
A 20-year warranty, 25-year warranty is not short. Which, by the way, I got introduced to you through a guy I play flag football with.
Yeah. And I told Justin, I said, hey, you may get a shout out.
Yeah. I mean, Justin, we got to give a shout out.
Yeah. Because he's the one that was like, hey, because I told him, I was like, hey, I got a couple of these quotes. I'm like, I don't know. We were just chatting at work. He was like, hey, give my buddy Ben a shout,
Yeah.
give him a chance,
Yeah.
and see what you do. And then, here we are.
Dude, I played flag football with that kid for a couple of years, and he's always one of the guys that I love to see when I show up to games. Because a lot of guys don't show up to every game. And so when I saw him, he brings a lot of energy.
Yeah. And that's, so at work, same.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I think he's just he's a high energy dude.
It's the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
fun.
it's every day too.
Yes. It's fun to work with people like that,
And
though, man.
well, and if it's not like that, you know something's wrong.
That's right.
So-
Yeah. Bob Woolsey from Jones Brothers was talking about the other day. He said, and I'll do this with you right now. I did this with my staff a couple days ago. Rate your energy level, scale 1 to 10. Rate your focus level, scale 1 to 10. And name something you're grateful for, your gratitude for.
You said energy level?
EFG, energy, focus, and gratitude.
Just overall energy.
Overall energy.
High?
Yeah? 1 to 10.
9.
9.
And then you said focus?
Mm-hmm.
Probably pretty high too.
Yeah.
8.
Yeah.
And then grateful?
What are you grateful for?
My wife.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. I said the same
Family.
answer. Yeah, family, man. And when it all comes back to it, it all just comes back to family, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 19 years, you've got a decision coming up when? When's that decision point?
So, and I could sit where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm. But you have to re-sign a contract at some point, right?
So I have to re-enlist actually coming up soon.
Soon.
I'll probably do, because once you hit retirement 8, or like once you hit that certain point, you could just put in for retirement.
Yeah.
Like if you say like today I signed a 6-year contract, once you hit that 20 mark, you're not committed to that contract. I've hit retirement, then you can put in for it. So between about 2 years, where I got to figure out whether I'm going to stay for a while or go.
In that position, when you get to, would you be trying to go for an E9 or would you stay at E8?
That would be the goal.
So, but if you got to E9, that kind of symbolizes longer term, doesn't it?
Yeah. So if that came to fruition, so right now there's people serving in 2 different retirement systems. There's a high 3, which what I'm in, and that's 50% of the last 3 years. So
Okay.
I just put on E8 in February, so I would have to do 2 more years, and I could retire as an E8, and that's 50% of my base pay.
Got it.
Any year past 20 is 2.5% more. Yep. So, yeah, if I get the opportunity to go up again, I would have to do at least 3.
3 years.
To then retain that for retirement.
I see. Let's say you retire. Let's fast forward to the future. What does life look like for Seth Tuggle after military? That's all you've known.
I'm trying to figure that one
Be
out.
like an alien.
So I do know a couple contacts that work at CAT locally. I have my degree in business. Obviously, I've managed. I don't know. That's the crazy part.
Are you excited for that?
Kind of nervous.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say when they do step out of it, they miss that
Camaraderie.
Yeah, they miss that part. What I wouldn't miss would be like the time away, right? That's that sacrifice piece. And we tell our kids that all the time. Like, look, like what you guys have now is because of the sacrifice that mom and I, went through. Them too, right? So 2 that they've been around for. Will was really young on the 3rd one. But they have made as well. So that's what I wouldn't miss. But the people for sure. I mean, it's easy. I don't have to think about what I'm wearing. That's it.
Put on the outfit and go.
Yeah.
New things are always an opportunity, man. I've thought about my life after roofing, if that comes at a certain point, like what the heck would I do? But the lessons I've learned from the position I've been in, not after roofing. Roof Decker's going to live on for a long time, but what I'm specifically going to do, and what does it look like?
I would say for me too, like passions, is leadership stuff, people.
Yeah.
That's why you brought up Justin. Like he's the same way. Like that would be my passion. So I don't know if it would be. It's difficult though too. There's no book for it.
No.
But I would say that's what I would to manage people somewhere on the outside, doing something. I don't know what.
It's such an interesting time hitting 40 and above. I'm not 40 yet. I'm 35, but it's something interesting to think about because your parents are getting older at that point, right? You start to see maybe your parents get sick at some point. I know Banu Hatfield from Zion Coffee. She started Zion Coffee. I think she lost both of her parents, and she's in her 50s now, maybe 40s. But that's a whole new level of you're the highest in the food chain in your family.
Yeah.
And you've lost your parents. What are you going to do? How do you figure life when you can't call your parents for anything?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of life change. If they call it over the hill for a reason at 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the weird,
I don't know.
I don't know what, and I say as you kind of grow, I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm almost grown up.
That's exactly right. It's so funny to look back at people that are 23 years old. Or not funny, I should say. It's I do not envy kids who are 23 right now.
No.
I don't envy it. I remember the trepidation I felt when I was starting my career, that I'm like, this is not a forever thing, and I'm going to grow into somewhere else. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to look. I happen to fall into construction, and I love it, but I don't envy the position of not knowing what the heck you're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's somewhat stressful, but I start to plan a little bit out from that.
Yeah.
To see, but the people part is a passion of mine. So being able, having tough conversations with folks, mentoring, all that stuff. That's a big passion.
Do you have a lot of younger people in your squadron?
Yeah, in my direct area, everyone's younger than me.
Yeah, like by leaps and bounds, or are they
10 years.
Yeah,
a couple are a few years behind me, but yeah.
Do you see that those guys look up to you and kind of see your life path and want to follow it? Yeah. That's got to be fulfilling.
Yeah, one of the coolest things. So when I left Fort Wayne, it wasn't a shock to. It was a shock to a lot of people, but it wasn't a shock to my leadership and the people that knew me really close, because I was feeling out. I had made it to E7. I had 7 years to go. And I was just peeking over here to Peoria because that's the only place I was going to go. I would just stay put. But when I left there, I was a part of their what's called Junior Enlisted Council. So the E1 to E6 category had a council, and they gave me a frame picture that I still have in my office. It just says mentor. And underneath that, the description of a mentor. And that was crazy honoring, thank you for that. That's not why I do it. However, that was a really cool memento from them to me, and I was like, "This is why I do this stuff."
Yeah. You strike me. You've always struck me as a guy. When the first time, I was talking to Adam, one of my guys, earlier today about this. There's just certain people that you meet that you just want to divulge information to, that are good listeners, that can give you good feedback and can, therapeutic in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've met certain customers, and within 20 minutes, we're talking about something super deep. And it's where did this come from?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see you as that person, like a father figure.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not that much older than you.
Not to me, but like a father figure to the people that are around, right?
Yeah.
People want to seek your wisdom and feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's weighty, but no, it's a unique, fun opportunity.
Yeah. You wear it well.
Thanks.
Yeah. Being in Morton, do you plan to, this is the house you're living in now is long-term.
Yep.
You guys want to be there.
Yep.
Yeah. Jenica, talk about her experience. I know her and I had a conversation when we were together doing the solar proposal that she just started driving the bus not too long ago, right?
Yeah, so she's been driving now, seems like forever, a couple years. So she's got her own route, morning, afternoon.
Yeah.
She does runs in between too, but yeah, and she actually works with her mom. Which
Awesome.
is, so that's the other like crazy part of us coming back here is, like she's like from being away for 13 years to then seeing your parent every day. It's her boss, which is kind of unique.
Is that how she got in the position?
She needed help, and so Jen's got her degree in education. So she was thinking, do I get my license here in Illinois? Do I once Evelyn went into kindergarten, she was like, what do I do? And Julie, her mom, made a comment, they do need help. And Jen's like, I think that's what I want to do. I'm like, do whatever you want. I'm like, go for it.
Does she take your kids to school?
So sometimes, and then sometimes they'll ride, sometimes they walk, because they're pretty close to the schools. Yeah.
I would, man, I was such a turkey when I was a kid, like just a rebel, not a rebel rouser. I wasn't too big of a trouble, but I just look for ways to kind of like, not be a pain, but I was just one of those kids I was a young boy who was immature. And I don't envy the bus drivers that I used to. Yeah. I remember one time I got in trouble on the bus, and they told me to go home and write down, I will not jump over seats, like 50 times on a piece of paper. So I went home and I typed it on a computer and copy and pasted it 50 times and gave it back to her.
Got you.
That's how I thought, though. It's like I was just immature.
She has a good time with it, though.
Yeah.
And it is crazy. Like, and her mom would tell you this, like, to do, because her mom did that for 20 plus years, and now she's the director. She
was the school bus director.
She was a driver, and then she worked in the office. Now she's the director of transportation at Morton for the district. So
she did that she's done that for 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Her mom. Yeah. Yep.
So that's how Jenica essentially
20 plus years. Yeah. But
that's got to be fulfilling for Jenica to be. I'm assuming her and her mom are close.
Yeah. Oh. Somewhat?
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yep.
My wife was a nurse. She still has her license, but now that we had a baby, she's staying at home. But her mom has worked at OSF for a couple decades, and so that community, the nursing community, is very tight.
Yeah.
And it seems to be part of it. You see your mom doing something, you want to be a part of it.
Well, and it was just, she was like, hey, I think I want to do this. I'm like, go for it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, she has a fun time with it.
Love it. Well, what's next, Seth? Wrapping up the podcast and kind of your thoughts on things. What do you want to leave with people after our conversation today?
Oh, man. I don't know. I'll talk about you a little bit in the business, and then I guess me. So if for the folks that are listening, if they're considering going solar, and this isn't, I'm not sponsored or paid or anything like that.
I did pay him $100 before he came in here.
So a real local company for folks, they've done both solar and roof for my house. Because your wife now works, is she still working?
She's a part of the company, yeah.
From that interaction from the start to finish, like if you're wondering about solar, wherever camera I'm looking at, the process is easy. Matter of fact, we just got our SREC like the end of last month.
Yes.
It took a while, but we got that. So that's being applied. If you're real local business with, I say this, a HAP principle, honest, authentic, and transparent here.
Yeah.
What I would leave, like just I'm not anybody special. What I do, if you're looking to do that, reach out. Like if service is something that people are wanting to do, and we say this to my kids all the time, like we have extremely good benefits, like with healthcare and all of that, that we wouldn't have had I not been in the military, right? So a lot of sacrifice, but a lot came from that too. But if people are out there are looking to serve, looking to give more, and looking to get a little bit out of it too, reach out. If you're Peoria, really all over the country, there's guard units everywhere. Illinois, Springfield, Peoria, down at Scott. We're always looking for people, good people. So,
Love it.
Yeah.
Seth, thanks for coming on today, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Yep.
We out.